Hey, what's up, Carl? This is a demo video for you for your AZ Sabers Nomad. This is a really cool saber that I've never seen up close before, which can be not very common these days. I've seen most of them, but I've never had this, run across my desk. It is installed with a Proffie. It's a one-button setup, so your one switch is right here. That does everything. Before you take the chassis out, though, you do need to unscrew this switch. So what you do is you unscrew the switch housing, which is the brass piece, right? It comes out. Set that off to the side. You'll see your switch popped up right here. You will need to pull that out, all right? So you can just drop it like that. It falls right into your hand just like that. This is a small piece, and it has a small magnet glued onto the very tip of it. As you can see that right there, all right? So we'll set these off to the side. And then how to get to your chassis is you take the emitter and you unscrew the emitter. All right, so we'll just unscrew the emitter just like this. Once you get all the threads unscrewed there, you can pull it straight out. This comes with, or this is installed with the chassis that came with the Saber, which is really cool. I do have one concern about the chassis, and I'll go over that here in a second. But for right now, this is what it looks like. It has a crystal chamber. I used the crystal that you sent me. So I got it to fit in there. One thing about this crystal is very clear. There's no imperfections in it, so it shines best on the top, and then you can see light again on the bottom. It's kind of translucent in the very middle because the light just goes right through it. All right, and I'll show you that here in a second as well. Your battery cradle is right here. You flip it open to get to your battery, so you just flip it open just like this, put your battery in. There was a plus and minus sign indented or designed into the chassis, but it was kind of hard to see, so I just went ahead and I went over it with like a black marker. Especially important to pay attention here, because as you can see, no spring side is your negative on these. Both of your battery terminals are exactly the same, so it could be very confusing if you don't pay attention to the plus and the minus that I put in your battery cradle. All right. My main concern with this chassis has to do with the battery, or I'm sorry, the battery cradle. This was not designed for a protected cell battery. All right, this was designed for a regular 18650. Hang on. This was designed for a regular 18650, commonly known as like a vape battery or something like that. It does not have a protected button cell on it. I tried my best to fit it in and almost broke the chassis trying to do it. It was specifically designed for a flat top battery. So that's the type of battery you're going to need to get. And I don't even know where to get those. I always get an 18650 keep power protected cell battery. All right, so that's my one concern about it, but everything else very nice. I used the speaker that came with the chassis. I don't know what brand this is. It just came with it, so I went ahead and I wired it up. It sounds good. All right, so moving up, you got your battery cradle, you got your crystal chamber. Up here is your board cover. So when you open that up, you'll see your Proffie board there. It is held down to the shelf with a little bit of E6000 because, as you can see, there's no room to put a USB data cable in there. Not even the low profile 90-degree ones that I use can fit in there. You will have to lift that board up, take it out, do what you need to do, and put it back in place. I recommend using E6000 because it holds very well, but it also can be pulled up if you need it to. It's just like kind of like a hard rubbery substance. All right, so don't use super glue because you never know when you're going to have to pop that board back up. All right, and that's just the nature of this setup. So I have the stock fonts on here, and then I also put my own font from Kyberphonic on here, the Apologize font. I put that on here so that I could model that as well. All right, you've got a Carl Chen PCB in there. This also came with a PCB holder that fit into the recessed area, so that was really nice. I didn't have to get in there with calipers because that would have been crazy. It fit in there very nice, and it gave you the maximum amount of blade depth. All right, so I am going to turn on the Saber and test it very briefly. I'm not going to test it very long because I don't feel comfortable using batteries that aren't protected. I don't think I've ever done it. All right, so we'll come over here and we'll throw a battery in, making sure we get the positive and negative in the right place. You can see your crystal. I got your crystal pulsing on this particular font. On all of these stock fonts, they will mimic the blade. All right, but then we can come over here and hit power. It does react to the blaster bolt deflex. You see how it's lighter on the top, or brighter on the top, and brighter on the bottom. And I gave you twist off. Now, this chassis was originally designed to have like 3mm LED diodes for the crystal chamber. I went through, modified it just a bit so that I could use a Neopixel accent. That way you could get the full range of color. You could program it to do whatever you want. It's pretty easy to do on Fed's library. Okay, but just take the chassis and the emitter, slide it in, and screw it in. Once you get it all the way and it's tight, you'll know it's all the way in because when you look into your switch hole, which may be hard to see on camera, but in person, you'll be able to see that tactile switch. You can just barely see it right there. All right, so that means it's locked in all the way. We can come over here and do the two-part piece. So first we'll take our switch, we'll throw it in the hole. And then you'll take your brass piece and screw it in over the switch. And that makes sure that the switch doesn't fall out. Now, a weird thing about this, I used the switch that came with the chassis. And I used the magnets that came with the chassis. All right, so one magnet was all it took to get this switch to be able to hit the actual tactile. But if you screw this brass piece down too far, it won't actuate properly. So just take some care when you're screwing this down that you screw it down, but not too tough. All right, and we'll come over here and hit power. So all your LEDs are working. Sounds really good, right? We'll throw a blade in. This takes a 1-inch diameter Neopixel blade. I have one blade retention screw right here. It does not go all the way through the emitter. So sometime down the road, depending on how hard you want to swing this guy, you might look into replacing that with a grub screw instead of that regular screw that's got a head on it and doesn't allow it to go all the way through the emitter. All right, but just a quick turn on and turn off because of the battery here. Player soundtrack is a double tap. Another double tap to turn it off. And then to change sound fonts, it's a long press on the power.
Scene C. Smooth Jedi.
We'll do one more.
Smooth Gray.
Nice fire blade. We'll leave it on the fire blade so that we can take it back out and I can show you the crystal chamber on that. All right, so we'll go ahead and unscrew our brass piece again. Don't forget to do this. If you do forget and you go to loosen up the emitter to take the chassis out, you might ruin that tactile switch. All right. Few threads, no biggie. Come over here and pull it right out. And then this is what your crystal chamber looks like with the fire font. All right. So when we're done, we'll want to come over here and you will need a tool to take this battery out. I've just been using a pair of tweezers. Come over. I've had a lot of luck on the positive side, just popping it up. If you have to, work your way back and forth from the positive and negative and cradle it up and down and it will pop out on you just like that. All right, and we'll close that up and put it back in the Saber. But that is basically your AZ Sabers Nomad. Let me know if you got any questions, and if not, I will try to get this out in the mail to you. It's Friday today, so it'll be first thing Monday morning. All right, thanks, man.